All right, let's dive into a book that is an absolute game changer for anyone who has ever dreamed of starting their own business. Michael Gerber's The E-Myth Revisited. This thing is a classic for a reason. It really gets to the core of why so many passionate people see their business dreams turn into total nightmares.
So let's just start with the huge central question the book asks. Why on earth do so many small businesses fail? You see them all the time, right? They open up with all this energy and excitement, and then, a couple of years later, the doors are closed for good. Is it just bad luck, or is there something deeper going on that most people are completely missing?
Now, the first thing you might think is, well, they must have had a bad idea, or maybe the founder just wasn't passionate enough. But Gerber says that's almost never the real problem. Actually, most of these businesses are started by people with a ton of skill and passion. The real reason they fail is way more subtle, and it's a trap that almost everyone falls into without even realizing it.
And here it is. This is the big one, the entrepreneurial myth or E-myth. It's the one fatal assumption that torpedoes businesses. It's the idea that just because you are fantastic at the technical work, you're an amazing baker or a brilliant coder or a genius mechanic, that you automatically know how to run a business that does that work. And as we're about to see, that single, flawed belief is the root of almost all the trouble.
So this myth, it leads you straight into what Gerber calls the technician's trap. It's this crazy paradox where passionate experts trying to build a life of freedom end up building themselves a prison instead of a business. So what's a technician? It's just someone who's a master of their craft. It's the baker who makes cakes that are just legendary, right? So she thinks, I should open my own bakery. It's the mechanic who can literally fix anything, so he decides to start his own auto shop. They love the work, they're incredible at it, and then one day they have what Gerber calls an entrepreneurial seizure. They think, hey, I should be doing this for myself. And boom, that's the exact moment they step right into the trap. And here's the result. It's crushing. They don't create an asset that gives them freedom, they just create a job that completely owns them. All of a sudden, that baker isn't just baking amazing cakes anymore. Now she's also the marketer, the accountant, the salesperson, and the janitor. If she gets sick, the business grinds to a halt. If she takes a vacation, the money stops. She has become the single most critical and most overworked part of her own machine.
Okay, so how do you avoid this trap? Well, Gerber's solution is just brilliant. He says every single successful business needs a balance of 3 totally different personalities, or roles. The huge problem is that most founders are only wearing one of those hats. So you've got these 3 mindsets. First, there's the technician, who we already know. They live in the present, they're totally focused on doing the work perfectly, right now. Then you've got the manager. This is the part of you that looks at the chaos the technician is making and says, whoa, how can we organize this? How can we create some order and systems? And finally, there's the entrepreneur. This is the visionary, the dreamer, always looking ahead and asking, where are we going? See, a healthy business needs all 3, but most founders are stuck being the technician 99% of the time.
And knowing about these roles leads us to one of the most powerful ideas in the entire book, the franchise prototype. Just think of this as the actual blueprint for building a business that can finally run without you.
This is such a mind-blowing concept. Even if you have absolutely no intention of ever franchising your business, you have to build it from day one as if it's the model for thousands of identical copies. Why? Because that mindset forces you to create simple, repeatable systems for literally everything. I mean, think about McDonald's. You get the exact same Big Mac in Tokyo as you do in Texas, not because they have genius burger flippers, but because the system is the star of the show. It all comes down to this one crucial shift in your thinking. You have to stop being the person who does the work and start being the person who designs the system so that the work gets done consistently without you. That right there, that is the leap from being a technician who owns a job to being a true entrepreneur who owns a business.
And this way of thinking leads us to probably the most famous concept from the E-myth, and that's the huge difference between working in your business versus working on your business.
So working in the business, that's the daily grind. It's serving customers, putting out fires, doing all the technical work. It's completely reactive. But working on the business, that's the strategic stuff. That's building the systems, creating the marketing plan, improving the whole model. It's proactive. The problem, of course, is that most business owners spend all their time putting out fires and they have no time left to actually build the fire station.
And, Gerber really doesn't pull any punches with this one. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the absolute truth. Real business ownership means you've created something that is not dependent on you being there all the time. If you are the system, you don't have a business. You have a very, very demanding, all-consuming job.
So let's tie all of this together and talk about the ultimate prize, the reason anyone risks it all to start a business in the first place, which is freedom.
When you build your business on a foundation of systems instead of your own personal hustle, everything changes. It suddenly becomes scalable because you can just duplicate the systems to grow. It becomes predictable because you get consistent results. And, this is huge, it becomes transferable. It's a real, valuable asset that somebody else would actually want to buy because its success isn't tied to you.
Okay, so this sounds great, but how do you actually start? Gerber lays out a really clear path. First, document everything. I mean, everything. Create a how-to guide for every single task, from how you answer the phone to how you make a sale. Second, you have to consciously block out time on your calendar to wear your manager and your entrepreneur hats. And third, with every single decision you make, you have to ask yourself, how can I build this so I'm not the one who has to do it?
Now let's take this whole philosophy and zoom out for a second. What would happen if we started teaching these ideas to our kids? What if we totally changed how we prepare the next generation for the world of work?
Think about it. Instead of just telling our kids to study hard so they can get a good job, which, by the way, is pure technician thinking, what if we taught them how to be system builders? Imagine teaching them about delegation and process design from an early age. Even a simple lemonade stand could become this amazing lesson in creating systems for marketing, for production, for customer service, a real entrepreneurial education.
And really, that's what this all boils down to. This is the promise of the E-Myth philosophy. It's the difference between being trapped working forever and building something that creates true, genuine freedom in your life.
And so, I'll leave you with this one question to think about. Whether you own a business now or you're just dreaming about it, you have to ask yourself, are you building a job or are you building an asset? Because the answer to that question changes absolutely everything.